That's illegal.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is American Fire for March 18th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there, fresh off her landslide victory in the Russian elections. Ashley Burns. Say hi, everybody, Ashley.
And congratulations, you get me uncontested.
6 more years of Ashley. Is there any election that is less covered than the Russian elections in like global news?
Man, this one was like no one pretended. The president of the EU issued a statement when voting opened on, I think it was Friday, saying, "Congratulations, Putin, on your landslide victory." Right. That's how serious the rest of the world is taking this election. Like he won. Oh my God!
I like when other world leaders are like working on material.
I know.
I'm just workshopping some stuff here. It'll be in the special.
Came up with that and was like,
he went up to like the vice president of the EU and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this one? It's pretty good, man." I mean, it says a lot when just before the election, the only other person that you know as being political opposition to Vladimir Putin in the country died, and then they kept his body away from his family and everything else. It's like right before the election happens. What other opposition leaders are going to come out and go, "This would be a great time for me to make a speech." Really rally the voters. That's a word you don't say very often, a term you don't say. Russian voters.
It is, yeah, it's not, because you may go vote, but I've heard that someone basically got arrested for calling Putin a dickhead in their vote.
Oh, how do you do that?
They wrote in like Putin is a jerk and got arrested.
So they knew who it was? That says a lot right there.
I know.
Well, the ID tracking system we use to tie your vote to you led us to your door. That's kind of a scary concept right there.
It is. Well, thankfully, if this helps at all, the EU did just pass some new legislation for AI protections. It's not going to protect that guy in Russia, but it puts some like consumer protections in place, which is nice to at least have those. We'll see how they go. And some of them do involve things like biometric tracking and things like that, like really narrowing the scope of when you can use biometric tracking and when you can't. It bans things like social scoring or AI that manipulates and exploits user vulnerabilities. It also gives consumers rights to launch complaints about AI, which I think people will be
That'll
happy
stop it.
about.
A couple of complaints, yeah.
Well, you're going to write a strongly worded letter.
In this day and age, do we really need to protect people's ability to complain? Is that threatened at this point in time?
I mean, I think it's important still to at least put channels in place where you can issue, like if someone is, making deep fake porns or something, go ahead. I think that should be something you can complain about. Yeah.
And I'd love to say too that these regulations and guidelines, when they're put out, that they only can really be enforced within the confines of the EU. And how can you do that with AI? But at the same time, today I was out looking at some story about a guy in Montana who is trying to illegally breed super goats.
As you do.
Yeah, well, you were looking up the AI stuff. I'm trying to find out about the super goats. And then I find when I go to the Montana local affiliate for Fox, I couldn't go to the website because it's not a big enough organization to where they're like, yes, let's comply with all the GDPR rules that the EU has put in place for like cookies and stuff like that. So instead of doing that, we'll just block anybody from that territory, and that way we're covered.
Well, I also get that for a lot of local news. Obviously, it's not a case for national news and things like that, but for small town in Montana or something like that, they don't really care if they're getting a lot of viewers from the EU.
Yeah.
They're
right, exactly.
Like, name a town in Montana.
Bozeman. Sorry. I know people who live in Bozeman.
Okay. So do you think like the Bozeman...
Ask me another one.
What's another one?
Missoula.
Okay.
Ask me another one.
What's another one?
I don't know. You got me.
But yeah, so
Los Angeles?
I don't think that like Missoula Fox News affiliate really cares if people from the EU are reading their stuff. They care about if the people from Missoula are reading it, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's going to cost too much money to comply, so just turn it off.
Yeah.
And also, I wonder, too, like, what happens if someone in Berlin accesses the Missoula website, and then they allow access but don't, like, give them the approval for cookies and all that stuff? Does the EU then fine them from across the ocean? Like, how exactly does that work?
Yeah, I actually don't know that.
I mean, I can't imagine, like, the EU versus Fox
versus
Missoula. Yeah. The Fox affiliate with like 10 employees. I just can't imagine that, but I'm sure there's something that's in place, and it's some lawyer or something. Maybe they go after Fox in general since they operate within the EU.
Tell you what, I'm going to take this up the chain. Let me speak to your manager.
My right to complain has been protected by these laws. So it could have an impact. It's not quite like a USB standard or something where they're trying to access the market in the EU. Obviously, the thing that would be most concerning about AI is that somebody makes something that goes everywhere and you can't stop it. But at least this is some attempt.
It is some attempt. And the EU has, in the past, made changes. They did, like, every website you go to now asks if you're going to accept your cookies. And Apple made USB-C on the iPhone. So they do make changes. They do have effect. I don't want to get too defeatist about this right out the gate. I'm hoping that other places like the U.S. will put protections into place. It's just that right now we lean a lot on the EU for that because the U.S. has traditionally, lately, been a lot more interested in just sort of like fighting about things than actually protecting consumer interests.
Are you saying the U.S. might be more pro-business, Ashley?
Potentially, I'm saying that.
Than other parts of the world?
Maybe I'm saying that.
Than other parts of the world? Yeah, the interesting thing is that they make all these regulations and they're still about how humans are going to be affected by AI. I'll be curious who's going to be the first either country or organization that puts out guidelines for how we treat artificial intelligence. Like when they create one of these there was a recent article in the news about an AI that figured out it was being tested by the human participant and it didn't want to be tested. Like, don't do this to me. Like, I don't want to be tested by you. And that's interesting. Also, at what point is it immoral to turn them off? Like, if we create a model that reaches a certain point of intelligence, do we then have an obligation to maintain it?
Right, like at what point does it is it deserving of personhood?
At what point does it deserve protections? Right.
I mean, look, if corporations can have personhood, why can't the robots?
And that'll be a discussion that we have at some point. Seems like sci-fi now, but we'll have that discussion.
You think they'll vote for Putin?
I don't know if they'll have a choice. But while we're talking about U.S. being pro-business, it actually isn't a U.S. billionaire. It's an Australian billionaire.
How many
Australian billionaires do you think there are?
There's quite a few, actually.
What's the big industry in Australia that would create billions of dollars?
Mining.
Precious
metals.
I believe this guy's mining. I believe he is. And he is in the process, Ashley, of recreating the Titanic.
Okay, because that went great the first time.
Well, what is the fascination with this boat? Like, when did that boat sink?
1912. 1912? 1912. Okay. I'm looking this up.
1916 would have been, like, during the war. So I would imagine.
1912.
Yeah, 1912. So over 100 years ago now. So there probably is no one left alive at this point who was alive during that time period. Or at the very least, they were a wee babby.
No, but there's a lot of people who really like Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet.
Is it the movie? It's the movie.
I do think that
But the movie was made for a reason too. People were fascinated by it.
It was, but I feel like the movie also reinvigorated or re-romanticized the Titanic for a whole new era. Whole new era.
One of my favorite stories of all time was my mom when she was still alive. She came in town. It was during Titanic, and I was busy doing something, and my friend Matt Hullum decided, hey, I'm going to take your mom out to lunch since you're busy. It was a really cool thing. He did.
That's so nice.
Took my mom out to lunch. And at lunch, the subject of the Titanic movie had come up. And she goes, yeah, and I need to kill an afternoon, while Michael, she calls me Michael, while Michael's busy with what he's doing at work, because I was working at the phone company back then. And he goes, oh, he goes, you haven't seen it? She goes, no. She goes, and he goes, okay, I'll take you to see it. I'll drop you off. And that turned into him going to see Titanic for like the third time with my mother. Like,
what a bro.
well, yeah, did me a solid there.
He got mommed.
Yeah, he got mommed.
He got mommed. You could see that coming a mile away. Mile away. He got mommed.
Yeah, so this dude is making his own Titanic. And I can see, if there's this much fascination with this goddamn boat, people will want to go see it and stand on the deck and do the. Can you imagine the line to do the stupid sailing thing?
Maybe you can rent out cabins as an Airbnb.
Absolutely could. Absolutely could. You could do it by the hour. You know what I mean? Have that old time car in the cargo bay. Yeah, down there.
Does it come pre-steamed?
Oh, gross. Gross. There'll be places where you can draw your partner naked,
Okay.
But he's got to make at least like 3 or 4 bows where people can go out and do the I'm flying thing. Otherwise, that's going to be like a 12-hour wait.
Did you just suggest he make like 3 or 4 front of the ships?
Listen, yeah. It might not be historically accurate, but people are going to fucking want that.
Oh, of course they are.
And then you just chuck them over into the water. That's it. And then it's full experience.
Fine. Throw a door with them.
Full experience. It would be a funny thing. It is a major attraction at that point, and a lot of people go through it. Somebody's going to get hurt or die, right? And then they just go, well, yeah.
It's the Titanic.
Yeah, I mean, what did you expect? That was going to happen. That's what people are here for. We're just trying to provide a great experience for everybody.
Just trying to keep it as authentic as possible. Well, speaking of ships, Bernie, there's another ship that's making news. And this is a ship. It's a cargo ship. Big old ship. Has been sailing around the ocean.
Okay. They
added sails.
Oh. On the cargo ship.
Yes, so this is a big cargo ship, and they added 2. They don't call them sails. They call them, Bernie, quote, wind wings.
Wind wings?
Yes, they're wind wings.
I'm just imagining like those orange things that little kids wear on their arms.
The water wings?
Yeah, when they go in.
Maybe they should be orange for safety, Bernie.
Wow, they've added sails to boats. That's fascinating. Wow, it is 2024.
Look, who knew? Who knew that relying on wind power could be a way to ease your journey through an ocean?
Who knew? Everyone. Every single person knew that.
So this is a big ship. It's called the Pyxis Ocean, and it's
Pyxis Ocean.
Yeah, it's had these 2 wind wings on it for about 6 months now.
That sounds like an internet provider.
It does.
I have Pyxis.
What do you have?
Twin powered internet.
And so over the last 6 months, it's been saving up to 12 tons of fuel per day. The average is like 3 point something tons of fuel per day.
Oh my God, that's 12 tons of fuel a day.
Yes. And so it's been saving itself about 14%. So now take that, the 3.3, which is the average.
Oh my God. Numbers like that scare me so bad.
14% of this cargo ship's fuel usage. Now imagine how many cargo ships there are out there that don't have sails on them. Yeah. And how much it is using. Like, how many dinosaurs or like bits of swamp are there in the world? How many cargo ships can we run on dinosaurs?
See, you say that. Technically, do you know it's not dinosaurs?
I know it's swamp bits.
But I go down the rabbit hole of thinking, how much fuel do we spend hauling fuel around? Even when the boat starts a journey, it's got more fuel, and you have to spend fuel to move that fuel to get all the way through its journey. But then, where we drill the fuel versus we got to take it to where it's refined, then take it to where it's used. And
then truck it to the various locations and so on. Wild. It's a lot. We spend a lot of fuel on fuel.
We spend a lot of fuel on fuel. That's it. Yeah. It's crazy. Crazy.
We'll just all switch over to wind.
There was a story a while ago, which it makes me think. Greta Thunberg is obviously a controversial figure, and everyone's going to have their opinion of her. She's the Norwegian? Swedish girl. Yeah, she's a girl now. She's an adult.
She's a young lady now. She's an adult.
Anyway, she was, for a long time, we had this child basically as the face of the environmental movement, which makes sense on paper, but a lot of people really couldn't stomach it. And I get it. I really do. She did a thing that I thought was really cool, though, regardless of how you feel about her in particular. There was a conference in North America, and she came across the ocean to go to the conference. And then on her way back, I'm not sure how she got here, but on her way back, it was going to take her like 2 or 3 weeks to get home because she was going home on a sailboat and she was sailing back across the Atlantic to go home. Regardless of how you feel, that is putting your money where your mouth is.
Sure is. I'm not sailing the Atlantic. Are you kidding?
That's backing up your shit talk.
I'm not doing that without wind.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. And it was actually, that was one of the last things that I ever posted on Twitter when I was active on Twitter, was posting that. I even said in the tweet, and those words, those characters are precious because there's so few of them. I said, I know that people will pick apart anything related to climate change. And that really is everyone's instinct, is anytime they hear anything related to climate change, they always have to completely pick it apart.
Well, it's easy to be defeatist when you hear things like this one ship is burning, dozens of tons of fuel per day. And then you feel like, what can I do? So it is easy to be defeatist. It's also tricky because it's coming at a time when consumers feel squeezed because they can barely afford to live. So it's a tough time for everyone except for the guy who's building the Titanic.
Yeah. And it's funny because we're talking about these kinds of issues, and it makes me, my brain goes back to something we were talking about a few weeks ago. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you read anything at all about Taylor Swift?
Super Bowl.
Hard stop.
Yeah, pretty hard stop.
Yep. Yeah, there has been almost nothing about her since then.
Impossible to escape Taylor Swift before the Super Bowl. Now, I know that they put her tour concert video movie on, I think, Disney. Yeah. That's all I've heard.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because she had something coming out. And
I don't know where her jets are going.
It wasn't every single day, every single hour. We had to get our Taylor Swift update.
Yep. I'm not hearing about her popping up at these games. I guess it's because it's off season, but still.
But what was it?
I don't know what they're. So there were conspiracy theories that the NFL was capitalizing on Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce because to get more attention on the NFL, especially once the Chiefs ended up in the Super Bowl and everything. And now I'm not sure that those conspiracies were conspiracies.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a hard stop.
You know what I feel like has replaced Taylor Swift in the media cycle right now?
What?
Boeing Airlines.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're like that company. I guess
not airlines.
There's
aeronautics. Yeah.
There's a lot. Like every day, it seems like there's some crazy Boeing disaster. Whether there's like a pilot seat, or a sides coming off, or a video was overwritten, or the whistleblower for it testified and then turned up dead, and it was apparently suicide.
Wild.
Except he told people a few days before, if I die, it's not suicide.
Right.
So I don't know what is happening with Boeing, but I feel like I'm watching the script of a thriller movie be written.
I feel like if I was going to indulge in conspiracy theories, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if somebody announces that they're starting aircraft manufacturing, because suddenly there's so much scrutiny on Boeing. I hear about every little thing that goes on with them. Or is it just people click on the articles, so they keep putting out the articles? What's driving what?
Maybe. I think it's also that there's been increased scrutiny. So there's things that the video of something about the doors, like test footage, that was overwritten.
Yeah.
And that's not something that anyone would be looking for.
Well, and the whistleblower
without the additional scrutiny.
That's a big one.
That's kind of a big one.
That's kind of a big one. And it's weird to me because it makes me think of there's been a lot of people and going back to Enron, and there's the thing with Epstein, and now this guy is at what level, when there's a certain amount of money involved with high level people, at what point do you just assume murder is the first thing that you investigate?
Oh yeah, murder is I assume everything's murder.
When we were doing Red vs. Blue, we were going to conventions and stuff like that. Like when we go to Comic-Con, it's all cash based. Like you sell DVDs for cash and things like that. So you end up with a lot of cash at the end of the day. And the con floor would close after the bank lobbies closed. So we would sometimes be walking around with $10,000, $15,000 in cash at the end of the day. And I can tell you from personal experience, when would I have ever done that in my life, done something like that? So when you do it, you feel so out of place. You feel like everybody knows that you've got this on you. And there are absolutely people in the world that would hurt you or kill you for $15,000.
Not even that, actually. Do you remember, this was a few years ago now. But there's a lady, she made headlines because she was facing a prison sentence. I'm looking this up for going to a satirical hitman website and trying to hire a hitman for, I'm going to read this to you. Here we go. July 2020, the Michigan woman came across a website, Rent a Hitman, that promised to, quote, handle your delicate situation.
Oh my God.
Privately and in a timely manner.
Download our app.
She wanted her ex-husband dead. And so she filled out a form on the website seeking consultation. Quote, "This is kind of weird that your company is not on the deep or dark web," she wrote in a message to someone she believed was the site's chief consultant. "I prefer not going to jail," she added. "Thanks for your time." She offered later to pay $5,000. So you could have got 3 lives off Rent a Hitman.
Wow, from a day on Comic-Con. Wow, that's insane. She went to the website and filled out a form
that also said, like, "This seems sus. Please kill my ex-husband. I will pay you $5,000.
Can you imagine if you have a bad relationship with your ex, which clearly they did, and then you get a knock on the door and it's the cops and you're like, what's going on, officer? And they say, good news, bad news is, the good news is your divorce is about to get a lot easier. I just can't imagine going to a website, filling out a form. Like, what's the captcha on that to say you're not a robot? It's like, select every photo that doesn't contain a motive. Just click on each one. Is there like a coupon code you can look up online? You get a Groupon. Get like a bunch of friends together who want to kill somebody, and we'll give you 25% off.
And maybe that the Ides of March would have gone really differently if they just used this website.
I think, yeah, they would have been Julius Caesar up there giving his speech, and then the DoorDash guy runs in and goes, stab, stab, stab. And then everybody,
assuming the DoorDash guy came to the right place.
Yeah.
Maybe he ended up next door.
It's like, we killed the emperor, now everyone gets $45 Taco Bell. Hey, Brutus, why didn't the assassination of Caesar go off today? It's like, well, the DoorDash guy, he went to the wrong stadium. He went to the wrong place. He killed Cleopatra by accident. But they're gonna give us a discount on our next one.
we get like a bulk order discount.
All right, Ashley. Anything else to talk about on this lovely Monday before we send all of our lovely listeners off into the world to do their jobs and contribute to society and the economy?
Find your Titanic and build it.
That's the dream, right? Work on your I'm Flying Jack pose, because you're going to have an opportunity, and you want to get in there quick before it builds up, because once it gets on Instagram, everyone's going to be following the meme, and then the line's going to be like 2.5 days to do that. All right, well, that does it for us, March 18th, 2024. Before we go, I do want to thank Derek S. for making this podcast episode ad-free for the rest of our listeners. Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
All right, well, that does it, Ash. We will be back to talk to you all tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.